Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside the Five. It's Stav.
And it's Griff.
And today we have a packed episode. Starting, we're going to talk about NBA playoffs. Right around the corner. This week, the NBA playoffs start. The play-in start. We're excited for that. We have some breaking news in the NHL world. Some history that was made. And we got baseball talk. Red Sox happened. We're in a full gear of baseball right now. So there's a lot to talk about. I'm excited. Griff, what do you say?
Playoff time. Let's lock in. Welcome back, everybody. It is going to be a jam-packed episode, as Stav said on the intro. One of the main reasons this is going to be a jam-packed episode is because the NBA regular season has wrapped up on Sunday, Stav. Our beloved Boston Celtics finished second in the East with a record of 57-25, securing their spot, obviously, on the opposite side of the bracket when talking about the Milwaukee Bucks. It's going to be a bit of a tougher road, but the playoffs do not start, Stavros, without the play-in tournament. And on the Eastern Conference side, I'm actually quite interested, as we'll get right into this first game here. I think that this is going to be one hell of a game between the Miami Heat and the Atlanta Hawks, Stav.
No, 100%. And we saw these teams match up in the first round last season, obviously the Heat being the 1 seed and the Hawks being the 8 seed last year. The Hawks, I feel like every single time we talk NBA basketball, kind of an overview, we talk about how the Hawks are kind of mid, right? And when I say mid, it's not really like slander towards them. It's just they're very consistently in the middle of the pack. And we've seen this 2 straight years that they're the 8th seed, right? And it's kind of becoming a trend that we see Trae Young kind of step up into these games and perform at a very high level that we haven't really seen all season. And in standards of roster, like on paper, this is a disappointing season for the Hawks, right? We expected them to make that jump to be a playoff team, not a team fighting in the play-in. And on the other side of the court, you have the Miami Heat, a very disappointing season for them as well, who they were a 1 seed last year. They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. They made it 1 game away from the NBA Finals, and now they're fighting to make the actual playoffs. So there's some storylines here. There's some storylines that in the beginning of the season, I actually said the Heat were a ceiling 7 seed. I have that on paper. And the Hawks, it is kind of surprising to me. But what do we think here? Because I know what I want in terms of as a Celtics fan, but I don't know if that's actually going to happen.
Yeah, and this is the first game of the play-in. It's at 7:30 on Tuesday, April 11th. Miami is favored by 5 points, Stav. That the -5 spread, in my opinion, is like it's the same thing as taking money line in this game. I like the Miami Heat. I think that although I am a big DeJounte Murray guy, that has been noted for years on this podcast, that I am a noted, well-known Seattle fan. DeJounte Murray fits into that category, but I think that going up this game, like you said, Stav, the 1 versus the 8 last year, I think it's going to be quite the same, where Miami is just they're a basketball team, when they have to lock in and when their captain needs to step up. I'm trusting Jimmy Butler, and I know Trae Young puts up a lot of points, but what Jimmy Butler does for his whole basketball team is miles apart from what Trae Young does for his. Bam Adebayo locking it down. I don't see John Collins or Clint Capella really being able to stop him in this game. It's only 1 game. And with that being said, I like Miami to just go out and win this 1 game with a lot of defense. The over-under is set at 226.5, and I could see this being an under game.
I like your points. And my counter argument to you saying that it's only 1 game is that it's only 1 game.
Exactly.
And Trae Young, we saw it last year. He just goes absurd in the play-in game. And they might find out a play-in game MVP and name it after Trae Young because he loves this game. And he's one of those guys, when the lights are bright, as I've said, he steps up, right? And the same can be said for Jimmy Butler. Whenever The Heat are in a big time moment. They give the ball to Jimmy Butler and let him work. It's just the surrounding pieces on the Miami Heat right now do concern me, right? We kind of seen a lackluster year out of Tyler Hero. Bam Adebayo hasn't been able to stay on the floor, so we really can't say much about him. Same thing with Jimmy Butler. But other than those three guys, I don't trust anybody on the Heat team. But you go and you look at this Hawks roster, right? You obviously have Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. You have John Collins. You have Clint Capella. Those are four guys who can get it to double digits, right? And I'm afraid that the Heat won't step up and realize the moment as the Hawks will, leading the Hawks to squeak by in this game. If I had to bet, I would probably bet on the Heat, right? I would rather have the Celtics play the Hawks in the first round. Do not get me wrong. I think that the Celtics sweep the Hawks. And that's their shade. I don't like Trae Young. I don't like the Hawks. I think that they sweep them. And I don't want to say they're going to have trouble with the Heat because I do think the Celtics will win against the Heat, but I think it'd be a grueling 6 games where it's going to be physical and not a first round matchup that you would like to have if you're the Boston Celtics. So
agreed. I'm glad that you brought up the point. The winner of this game is playing the Celtics. Game 1 of that series being on Saturday, obviously at the Garden. And you kind of got into my next question already of what team you'd rather have play or have to play. And I agree with you 100%. The Atlanta Hawks. And it's exactly to my point on why I think the Heat are going to win is just the way that they play basketball. In a series with the Miami Heat, they're going to beat you down and they're going to try to out physical you. They're going to box you out. They're going to, be physical, hustle. And Atlanta is known to get down at times. So I would much rather have the Boston Celtics be playing against the Atlanta Hawks in a 7-game series. But this one game, I think, has the potential to be one of the better games of the season, in my opinion. I think that these are two very evenly matched up teams. In my opinion, on roster, the Hawks have the better roster. Yeah, as you said, Jimmy Butler is a guy that you don't know what he could do at any given moment. And Tyler Hero gets his, and Max Strus shoots threes or whatever. Kevin Love's 45 years old. But the Atlanta Hawks have, 2 all-star guards at their ceiling in DeJounte Murray and Trae Young. They have John Collins, who's one of the best power forwards in the league, in my opinion. Clint Capella, who can grab rebounds, block shots. And then Bogdanovich, do they usually have at the 3? Or, either way, Miami's team is not the same team that they had the year before or the year before that. And I could see them winning this game, but for when we talk about the Celtics, because we will be talking about the Celtics soon, let's say we'll take a look, obviously, if they were to play both teams, but let's say our official prediction to win this game is the Atlanta Hawks as a podcast.
Okay.
We'll do that. And we'll move on to this next game of the play-in tournament. Staying in the Eastern Conference, a game where I would say very similarly these teams match up once again in a game between the Chicago Bulls and the Toronto Raptors. Game being played in Toronto. Toronto favored by 5 points. And I want to come out right away and say that I am going with the Chicago Bulls in this game.
I'm glad you said that. I'm tailing that.
Okay, good. Because not only do I not believe in the Toronto Raptors, but they're just a disgrace of an organization.
Oh, a terrible organization. And I've gotten at it with Raptors fans on Twitter the last few days. They're a poverty franchise, and there's no way around it. And they're hanging their fucking coat on their 2019 NBA championship, even though that roster has nothing to do with this one. And it's crazy to me how many times I received that as a response when I was bashing the Raptors. It's like, oh, win a championship, bud. It's like, dude, the only reason why you won an NBA Finals was Kawhi Leonard got traded there and forced his way out of Toronto. He wanted nothing to do with the organization, and when he had a chance to leave, he left. So do not tell me about the 2019 NBA Finals. That was Kawhi Leonard's championship. That wasn't the Raptors championship. Next, they're a 9 seed. They are terrible, right? There's no way around it. Scotty Barnes is useless. Nick Nurse is going to get fired. Fran VanVleet does nothing. Pascal Siakam only spins around and makes layups. That team is terrible. There's no way around it, and the Bulls are going to win this game. I think this Bulls team wins this game pretty handily.
I agree, and I would say almost for the same reason that I have Miami winning this game, I have Chicago winning this game. The veteran leadership of DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, even Alex Caruso, who gets it done in big moments. Nikola Vucevic has been in the league for years. And coming off the bench, Andre Drummond has been producing. And no matter what, if you like it or not, he's been grabbing boards. They have a good bench with Kobe White coming off the bench. Derek Jones Jr., the high flyer. They have these guys, they have a deep team. And remember, early last year stuff, the Chicago Bulls. I mean, this is a similar roster, just a team that's kind of looking for something that they can grasp. They're looking for a little bit to get them through to this next round, get them into the playoffs, and hopefully be taking on the Milwaukee Bucks, which I would think it would be a rematch again of last year. And I would think would be a pretty tough series against Milwaukee.
Yeah. The Bulls, they've had a disappointing season. There's no way around it, right? Zach LaVine hasn't performed up to his standards. And obviously they're missing Lonzo Ball, who's a starting point guard for them, who does way more than the stats put up. I think we've all been on record saying that this team
we're really Lonzo Ball guys.
And DeMar DeRozan, like you said, his veteran leadership is there. And he's getting to the point in his career where all he really does is want to win. I'm not saying that he's going to really propel them to beat the Bucks, but they will be in position to fight against, in our predictions, the Miami Heat. And that's going to be another tough game, right? In a one-game series, I feel like DeMar DeRozan and Jimmy Butler kind of cancel each other out. I mean, just mid-range snipers. They get to the cup, they do their thing. And then I think Zach LaVine is what put this Bulls team over the hump of the Miami Heat, if that were the matchup to be. So as of right now, this is going to kind of sound surprising, but do we have the Bulls being that 8th seed?
Yes, I do.
I also do. Based off the
because I also think that if the Heat win their first game and Chicago plays the Hawks, I think Chicago could give the Hawks a run for their money.
I agree. And I think that why does this always happen? I always get loud ass notifications. I have my laptop on Do Not Disturb. But anyways, excuse me. This Bulls team, they can get hot. 2 games is all you need to get into the playoffs. You just need to win 2 games. That's it. So
exactly.
I think they can do it.
Yeah, and then obviously they'd be facing the number 1 seed, not only in the Eastern Conference, but in the NBA. So those are our predictions for the Eastern Conference officially locked in. We have the Hawks as the 7th seed, the Bulls as the 8th seed, and one of those years where the true 7th seed doesn't make the playoffs, that will make a whole city, maybe a whole state, hate the play-in. But for now, we still love it. We're going to move over to the Western Conference here in – I would say more of a story than a game between the 7 and the 8 seed of the Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have been on an absolute run stop. You can't deny it. They found themselves as a 7 seed, the top dog in the play-in. They're going to be hosting a game here to lock up, hopefully, the 7 seed. They are favored by 7.5 points. The over-under is set at 231.5, and we obviously know one thing is for sure, Rudy Gobert will not be playing in this game.
Did you see that stat about how the Timberwolves play with and without Gobert this season? They win at a 60% rate when he doesn't play. So, and when he does play, I think they're at 45%.
And another thing, though, Jaden McDaniels, totally forgot. Remember when he punched a wall? He fractured his right hand.
Literally the worst possible last game happened for the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, obviously Karl Anthony Towns or Anthony Edwards could have gotten hurt, which would have been pretty bad. But in terms of storyline and culture, this was a really bad last game for them.
I mean, a terrible last game. Now you're missing 2 of your starters. And Jaden McDaniels, for any casual listening to this podcast, Jaden McDaniels is a key part of this Timberwolves team. He is a true 3-and-D guy. He plays great defense. And the only reason I really like him is because I've been cashing him over 3.5 rebounds like every game all season. But he has been doing his thing on the defensive side of the ball, which would be big going up against LeBron James and the Lakers. I can't see anybody else that would be guarding LeBron on that team, and it would be a tall task for Jaden McDaniels. But I would say we're both on record here saying that this is a layup for the Lakers.
Yeah, I really think that they cover. I think that they're going to win this game. I think they cover, and we'll see the matchup between Memphis and the Lakers in round 1.
Yeah, and I want to put a stamp of guarantee on that, them covering. That is our best bet of this episode.
I agree. I do think that they cover, and I think that they probably win this game by double digits. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say around that 12-point mark.
12 to 15 is what I'm thinking. If there's a margin, do we want to bet a margin of victory?
Yeah, we can. My analytics guys in the back over there is feeding me those numbers, so it's pretty much guaranteed.
I kind of like that 12 to 15 mark, but it would also be so Lakers of them to ruin our bet and just like lose
the whole game entirely.
Yeah, but they won't. The NBA
no, they won't. They won't. Best bet of the episode. Yeah. The Lakers will be playing the Grizzlies. And we could save it for a little bit after we talk about this next play-in game. But that Grizzlies-Lakers series would be very interesting.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of animosity there, but
a lot. There's a lot of storylines in the Western Conference, and the NBA is turning into reality TV. But how about we talk about two teams nobody ever talks about? Except for our friend Darren. Game between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Oklahoma City Thunder. The Thunder are in the play-in game. They're playing against the Pelicans. And I want to say that Darren in the group chat said the other day, or maybe even yesterday, that he thinks that they could make the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
No, they're losing to the Pelicans in this first game. I'm sorry.
My logic for the Hawks essentially is going to be the same for the Pelicans. CJ McCollum is going to be too much for this Thunder team to handle. And it's a good season by the Thunder. The Thunder really don't have they don't have their project guy in Chet Holmgren, which many people kind of forgot. This is a good season for them to put them in meaningful. The whole point of rebuilding is to eventually get to the point where you play meaningful basketball games late in the season. And that's in fact what they did. And they're competing, and I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means. I think that they're going to hang in this game. They're a high-scoring team. They score at an efficient rate, and they can score fast. So this Pelicans team kind of really needs to slow down the game. I think Zion's out, which
yes, he is.
We're gonna have to kind of get into the bust question mark category for him because he just doesn't play.
I'm ready to call him a bust. I'm a UNC guy through and through. I'm ready to call him a bust.
He just doesn't play basketball anymore.
He doesn't play. He never plays. Should Ja Morant we'll put it better. Should he have been the first pick in the draft?
I think so. At this point,
New Orleans still needs a point guard. Who's their point guard?
It's CJ McCollum does everything for them, but
CJ McCollum is just the team, and then Brandon Ingram grew all his hair out.
Oh, you want to know first basket? I'm betting on Jonas Valanciunas again.
And I do want to say about this game between the Thunder and the Pelicans. I'm gonna run you through this whole explanation here. Last game of the play-in, April 12th, 9:30 p.m. New Orleans is favored by 5. I like them 5. And the over/under is screaming at me at 228 to take the over. This sounds like an over game. This kind of reminds me of a Pac-12 at night game.
Yeah,
that's an over.
That's our lock that's our overlock. I'm
that's our second best bet.
Yeah. So you know how the cappers on Twitter or whatever, 5 units max best bet. That's the Lakers. This one is in the number 2 there. The over in this game at 228.
Maybe 3 units.
Yeah, I'll sprinkle some units onto that.
There's some units there.
Yeah. So now with our prediction of the Pelicans, now we have the Pelicans facing the Timberwolves, and now this is a game I don't know what happens because, to be honest, I trust the Pelicans more than I trust the Timberwolves just based off of matchups, right? Because Jonas Valanciunas is a physical,
Yep.
he's a specimen. He's an athletic freak to the point where Karl Anthony Towns probably won't be able to hang with him on the block. And if you have to exude so much physical energy on the defensive side of the court, well, Rudy Gobert will be back.
Yeah, he'll be back.
I don't know. Tell me, what do you have in this one?
I'm going to take the Pelicans in this game. For the same exact reason, CJ McCollum, 40 ball in that game. I just think that Minnesota has enough going on right now to the point where there's almost no chance that they see any success the rest of the season. Like, that was a true meltdown at the end of the season for that team. They have no business winning any more games this season. They'll finish the season 42-42, a perfect 500. And as me and Will used to say in prior seasons back before the 17-game season in the NFL, you go 500, you don't make the playoff, you might as well have not played the whole season. Nothing happened. So this would be the perfect season for nothing to happen to the Timberwolves. 42-42, a failure of a year for Minnesota. I have them losing both of these play-in games.
Yeah, I'm with that. If that didn't happen yesterday at the time of this recording, I probably would have taken the Timberwolves in this
over the Lakers. I probably would have taken them over the Lakers, to be honest, just because I don't like the Lakers.
Well, yeah, I would have more reason to do that. Instead, our max best bet is the Lakers.
No, yeah, but no, that's exactly why it's the max best bet, though.
Yeah, exactly. But I would have for sure, if we ended up taking the Lakers, I would for sure have taken the Timberwolves over the Pelicans. But I just think that there's too much animosity. I think that this is the worst possible time to have a distraction like this.
The season is over.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert ruined their season.
Yes, once again.
Yeah, he ruined.
So, I mean, it's an ongoing oh, well, no, he actually ruined the Jazz season the last time. But, I mean, he's keen to ruining seasons. Shout out to Rudy Gobert only being a Defensive Player of the Year because he's French and the NBA wanted to up their French audience. But how about we move on to the playoffs, not the play-in, not the Weenie Hut Junior section of this episode, but the actual playoffs. We have two series from each side of each conference set in stone, Stav, starting in the Eastern Conference between the 3-seeded Philadelphia 76ers and the 6-seeded Brooklyn Nets. Stav, the potential MVP of the league, Joel Free Throw Embiid, taking on a young, fun, and exciting Brooklyn Nets squad. This is a perfect setup for a trap series, in my opinion. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this series.
If you won't say it's going to happen, I'm going to say it's going to happen, and I have the Nets winning the series in 6. I think that they steal one. I'm sorry. I think that both teams – I think the Nets take one of the first two. They win both of their home games. So they're up 3-1. Philly comes back, wins one more, 3-2, and then the Nets close it out at home in Game 6. Mikal Bridges, I think he's the first player in NBA history to play 83 games.
Yes.
Which is unreal. Just Iron Man. But earlier in the season, when these teams have matched up, Nick Claxton has given Joel Embiid some problems.
Yeah.
And do we trust the rest of this roster to pick up the slack if Embiid has an off game? I don't. I think Mikal Bridges is going to play excellent defense on James Harden. He's probably going to see 2017 defense on James Harden with Mikal Bridges. And I think that Cam Thomas steps up because he kind of went through a lull and now he had a great game as of late. He's a guy who's a very streaky player, right? And then you have Cam Johnson. You have all these other guys, Joe Harris, who can get hot. This Nets team, they're well coached. They're fun. They can score at will. And if they can slow down the 76ers offense, if they can limit Joel Embiid, because Joel is going to get hits, right? You just can't let the other guys do their thing. If they shut down Tobias Harris, if they take away PJ Tucker's corner 3, and they don't let James Harden turn back the clock, I don't see how the Philadelphia 76ers can win this game, the series, rather. Never mind just one game. I have the Nets taking this in 6.
Yeah, and it's not just Mikal Bridges. He's probably going to have the assignment on James Harden, which will likely take down his offensive efficiency. Like you said earlier in the episode, if you have to play defense on somebody of that stature, you're not going to be able to get as many reps on offense. You got to balance yourself out. But that's exactly why I like this squad, because you have people like Spencer Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson, who's a name that you didn't mention that's also streaky and also a defensive player, and Dorian Finney-Smith, who can really stretch the floor out, which I love as an assignment for PJ Tucker, or even Tobias Harris. I think that either Cam Johnson could be on Harris or Finney-Smith, and whoever isn't on him can just take the role on PJ Tucker. Claxton, like you said, will be on Joel Embiid probably whenever he's out on the court. And keep in mind, when Kevin Durant was on this basketball team, people were talking about Nick Claxton being all defensive first team. And Nick Claxton, in my opinion, hasn't really slowed down. And you could say that the team has slowed down because, I mean, there's a lot. I wouldn't say it slowed down. It took a very different turn. But this is a deep team, Stav. Like you said, it's very well coached. They have their guy, Mikal Bridges. In my opinion, Mikal Bridges is well on his way. Next year is going to be a big year for him. And this is kind of where he makes a splash. And if they don't win this series, then I think that the series could go very, very deep. I think that, like you said, you have them in 6. I could see them losing in 7. I could see them winning in 7. I could see them winning in 6 as well. It's going to be a tough series for the Sixers, and it's going to be a very, very, very tough run for the Philadelphia 76ers if they get through that first round, depending on who they'd have to play. Best case scenario for the guys over here would be against the Boston Celtics. But before I move on to this next game, I do just want to talk about how bad the Philadelphia 76ers are. Like you said, James Harden is on the team. He stinks. Tyrese Maxey, I feel like if he was on any other team, he would be like a starting point guard and like maybe like a De'Aaron Fox type player, but he's stuck in Philadelphia. Tobias Harris, don't know what position he is. PJ Tucker, same thing with him. I mean, both of them, it's like if there was a position between a small forward and a power forward, Tobias Harris and PJ Tucker would both fit in that category. They're like a 3.5, both of them. And then they just rely completely on Joel Embiid. This is an absolute, in my opinion, one of the worst rosters that we've seen from the 76ers in recent memory. And I would date back to Ben Simmons' rosters and say that Ben Simmons being on this team was a better thing than the team that they have put together today.
I agree. And this 76ers team, when everything is going to be minimized, you're going to get the playoff whistle, right? It's not going to be you're going to get to the line 30, 40 times a game like Embiid is used to. So this whole offense, this horrendous style of offense, horrendous style of basketball that is just the most unpleasant way to view a game from a fan's perspective in just iso ball in trying to draw fouls. You're not going to get baited by this Brooklyn Nets team. They don't really care, to be honest. And Embiid's going to have – you know how it's usually said you have to earn your points from the line? No, Embiid's going to have to earn his points from the floor because he's not going to get his call. He's not going to get his 30 free throws. Harden's not going to get his 20 free throws. This team's going to be struggling to score against a Brooklyn Nets team that is a very efficient scoring team. So it's going to be tough for them. And like we said, we both have the Nets here, I think, right?
Yes.
Okay. So does that mean we can move on to the next Eastern Conference matchup, which is going to be the series of the first round? I am so excited. Or in the East. This is the Eastern Conference series of the round.
Yes.
Eastern
Conference ready? I got you. Eastern Conference first round marquee matchup.
Oh, great use of vocabulary. Thank you. And if by this point, if you don't know this matchup, sorry, you should, but it's the Knicks and the Cavs. Now, these are two teams that are just fun, right? On the Knicks side of the ball, they're the 5 seed. The Cavs are the 4 seed. They have home court advantage. We'll start with the Knicks. Obviously, Jalen Brunson having an excellent year, proving he's worth that contract that he got, in which everyone was kind of shitting on the Knicks for that. But he proved his worth, in my opinion. He kind of shut up the doubters. Julius Randle has a major bounce back year. Last year he struggled. This year he's an all-star, and he's performed well, averaging over 25 points a game. Excuse me. And then you obviously have RJ Barrett, you have Emmanuel Quickly, you have guys who step up when it matters, and they perform at the highest level, a physical team, a team that can score very well, and they're going up against a Cleveland Cavaliers team who isn't afraid of anyone, essentially, right? This Cleveland Cavaliers team takes it to all their opponents. They can score. They are very good in the guard front. They have some young front court guys, excuse me, with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. I almost said Emmanuel Mobley, but they're a fun team. They're very good, and this is going to be a good series. And I think it's going to go 7. I don't even know who. If I had to predict, it'd probably be the Cavs. But this is basically, if I'm going to bet, I'm going to flip a coin because I don't know who's going to come out on top here.
Yeah, and I think that there's so many different ways that the Cavs could match up against the Knicks in terms of, you're talking about that front court. Who's going to guard Julius Randle? Is it going to be Evan Mobley? Is it going to be Jared Allen? And then whoever isn't on them is going to have to take the responsibility of Mitchell Robinson, who's a lob threat. I wouldn't really be scared of him that much when he has to put the ball down on the floor. But he's someone that will find open slots, will find his way to the basket, and will get easy dunks. That front court in New York is very dangerous as well. And that's what's going to make this a great battle. RJ Barrett is sneakily averaging 19.5 points per game, and that's somebody that is a wing that I would say the weakest part of this Cleveland Cavaliers roster is their wing play. I mean, I think Jetty Osman has been starting at small forward for them because Isaac Okoro hasn't really developed the way that they want him to. I think that, like you said, this is going to be the best matchup of the first round in the Eastern Conference. And you said you like the Cavs in 7. I think I like the Knicks in 7. And it's going to be a very, very difficult series to bet. I literally going into, before talking about this series, I had my mind set on the Cleveland Cavaliers. But I just love the way that the Knicks have been playing basketball as of late. And I think that Darius Garland is going to match up. He is a better point guard in whole than the Knicks have in Jalen Brunson. But then you look at shooting guard, I would say that they're pretty evenly matched up. Small forward, I would say that the Knicks have the advantage. And then Julius Randle beats out Mobley, and then
Mitch Robinson,
Allen beats out Mitch Robinson.
You would say
it's super even.
I would take Donovan Mitchell 10 times over RJ Barrett. I don't think.
Oh yeah. Sorry, that was stupid for me. I blanked on who their shooting guard was for a second. It is Donovan Mitchell, but I mean it's going to be a crazy series because Julius Randle, in my opinion, that is the biggest advantage that anybody has on that court is Julius Randle against whoever guards him. Even if it's Jared Allen, I think he's quicker than him. Evan Mobley, I think he's quicker than him and overall just better than him. I think Julius Randle is going to be the guy that we have to look out for in this series.
See, what's interesting about this matchup, in my opinion, is there's no veteran experience that sets one team above the other.
Maybe
right?
Donovan Mitchell.
Some people would say Donovan Mitchell has more experience, but Jalen Brunson, what he did in the playoffs last year was nothing short of remarkable, which a lot of people kind of forget about, but that's the reason why he got this contract from the Knicks to perform in these high-level situations. He is going to be ready. He went on the road in Utah. They matched up with each other. Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson matched up with each other last year in the first round of the playoffs. Not many people remember that. And Jalen Brunson took his lunch. He was no Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson head-to-head. Jalen Brunson dominated that series. And I think that Donovan Mitchell he's obviously a competitive guy. I think he remembers that. And I think that's kind of what's going to set this Cavs team over with how essentially Jalen Brunson inadvertently put Donovan Mitchell on the Cavs.
All right, I'm with you. Let's take the Cavs. I'm with
And
you.
I think that's in his mind, and I think that Donovan Mitchell is going to come out and put up a historic round. I think he's going to average over 35 points a game in this playoff series. Right. Donovan Mitchell is that guy. Give me the Cavs in 7.
And to be honest, I'd rather see the Cavs play the Bucks in that next round too than the Knicks. So,
all right. And now are we going to talk about the hypothetical 1-8-2-7? No, I think we should wait until it's set.
Let's wait. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Next, we have the marquee matchup of the first round in the Western Conference. I want to start with that one just because this one's action-packed, then we'll go to the other one. But this is probably the most star-studded series in the first round. You have the 5-seed Los Angeles Clippers taking on the 4-seed Phoenix Suns. On the Sun side of the on the court, you have Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant. And on the Clippers, you have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. This series is going to be sick. This is going to be a better series than this is why I wanted to specify that the Knicks Cavs was the Eastern Conference match. This is the first round matchup this is the marquee matchup of the entire first round between the Clippers and the Suns.
And looking at this series, this is like a series full of disappointment, in my opinion. Both of these teams are going to be very upset about where they fell in the standings. And the Phoenix Suns have been absolutely unstoppable when Kevin Durant is on the court. I'm scared of what Chris Paul does in the playoffs. We have an ongoing joke, obviously, about Chris Paul. But you look at this LA Clippers team, and this is a team that looks like the LA Clippers year in and year out. They limped into the playoffs. They found themselves at the 4 seed. They'll be hosting at least the first round. And this is the perfect opportunity. Or no, not even, right? The Suns are hosting. Even worse. This supports my point even more. The Clippers are the 5 seed. They limp their way in, and the Clippers disappoint in the first round every year. The Clippers are losing.
I agree. I have the Suns here. I think there's no way Kevin Durant loses in the first round back-to-back years. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen.
Paul George will lose in the first round.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun series. I think that they're going to kind of go back and forth, but I just think that the greatness of Kevin Durant really wills this team over the Clippers. And fun fact, anytime that the big three of the Suns play all together, they haven't lost. So it's something to note.
Let's see how many times that over under 50 or 75% of games played in the first round, all three of them. Do you think they all three of them play in at least 3 out of the 4 games?
75%. So hypothetically, if this were to go 7, no. But if this is a sweep, I think that they play in exactly 75% of it.
Okay, and I mean, well, how many games do you think this series lasts?
6 to 7.
Okay.
I think that's kind of where I'm going to put it at. I'm going to say percentage of how confident I am, I'm like 65% confident it's going to go 6, 35% it's going to go 7.
Okay. All right. Not saving any percentages for 4 or 5.
No.
Okay. All right. Fair. That's a fair judgment. And if you guys are wondering the type of person I am, I'm the type of person that looks at this series, but then looks at the other series, the 3 versus the 6, and this is the series that caught my eye, Stav, between the Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. I thought when you were talking about the Eastern Conference marquee matchup, I thought this was going to be the Western Conference marquee matchup. I don't think enough eyes are on this series and on how good this series is going to be if played fully healthy. And so far, it looks like it. And a lot of people obviously are saying that the Golden State Warriors are going to, run through them, even though they're the lower seed. I think that the Sacramento Kings have a lot to prove in this series. This is something that could be a rivalry over the next couple of years. And this is a series that will see a lot of scoring. The over is set at 239, the highest over that we've seen so far today while talking about overs on the podcast. The first game, Sacramento is favored by 1 point, very tight in this series. Stav, you're giving me a menacing grim. Do you think that this is an easy one?
I don't want it to be, but I think that the war, like if we're going to talk about experience, and what this Golden State Warriors team does in the playoffs, I don't want to give much of a chance to the Sacramento Kings team, and I feel bad saying that because I really do like this Kings team. And if I'm not picking if the Celtics don't win the championship, I want to see Sacramento win one. I really do like this team. I think what they're doing is excellent, and they got a lot of shit for trading away Tyrese Halliburton, but they had a vision, and it's really working. As a 3 seed in the Western Conference, the first time they made the playoffs since what year? 2005, 2004? I think it was 2004.
Yeah, 2004 maybe.
That's almost 20 years. And De'Aaron Fox, DeMontis Sabonis, Kevin Huerter, these guys are all stepping up and playing a great brand of basketball, high scoring. It's just they're not efficient on the defensive end of the court at all. And to even put up a chance against a Golden State Warriors team, although this Warriors team sucks on the road, they're abysmal on the road in the regular season, though. It changes in the playoffs, and we all know that. It's going to be hard for me to bet against this Golden State Warriors team. I'm saying that right now. I think that the Warriors win this series in 7, but I don't want them to. I want the Kings to win in 6.
Yeah, same thing here. I would love the Kings to
5
win.
or 6.
I'm going to be rooting for the Kings, but my overall prediction is going to be Warriors in 6 at home in Game 6.
See, that's the thing. If the Kings are to win this series, they have to take one in Golden State in the first 4 games. They have to win both of the home games, and they have to take Game 3 or 4 in Golden State.
Yeah, and it's going to be very, very difficult because you're right. They don't have a lot of experience. This is kind of their foot into the door for the playoffs, and they'll be back. This is a team that will be back. I guarantee it. There's going to have to be a few adjustments. Obviously, Harrison Barnes can't be your small forward, power forward forever. Malik Monk has taken on a role of, being one of the better scorers on this team. He's not somebody that I think will be efficient even in this upcoming playoff series. There's a few moves that the Kings need to make to really solidify themselves as a team that will be kind of hanging around this 3 seed spot year in and year out that they're in right now. But right now they are, in a good position to go out and win a first round against a very, very difficult team. And if they win that, then who knows what will happen in the next round. But I would say overall, Stav, that we're in for a treat for this first round. I don't know if you want to talk any Celtics, but we don't really know who they're going to play.
Yeah, it's not really worth to talk about other than the fact that I'm happy they closed out the season the way they did.
Yes.
On a positive note, with the last few games kind of taking the reins of that. They're back to playing efficient basketball. We haven't talked about the Celtics in a little bit just because of March Madness, because of other things that have happened in the sports world. But this Celtics team is back to playing the brand of basketball that we're used to seeing them play. I really hope it translates into the playoffs. Shout out Jason Tatum for being the first Celtic in history to score over 30 points a game in a season, which is surprising to me. I'm surprised. Like when I first saw that stat, I'm like, I don't believe that's true. With Bill Russell and Larry Bird just as 2 guys themselves. But Jason Tatum is the first Boston Celtic in history to score over 30 points a game in a season.
Yeah. Any thoughts on us being a 2 seed?
I'm disappointed we're not the 1 seed. I think that obviously the Bucks have a better, or let me say this. The Bucks have the easiest path compared to the Celtics, obviously. So if you just go through based off of the play-in seeding itself, I'm not saying the Hawks or the Heat are going to win. So hypothetically, the Bucks first round matchup would be the 8th seed Hawks, just based off of seeding. And then you face either the Cavs or the Knicks. I think that the Bucks have a big advantage against them. And then you're home against the Celtics, who just went through the Heat and the 76ers, hypothetically, if everything shakes out exactly how it's supposed to. So it's going to be tough.
I feel like we got to play the same goddamn teams every year. We're never on the other side of the Sixers. We always have to play the Sixers. Last year, we met the Heat in the conference finals they weren't even a good team. They weren't even a good team.
They were the 1 seed last year. Remember that?
No, I know that. But they weren't good. I swear to God, they were the 1 seed. They were a regular season team
for no reason
the whole year. They found their way in the conference finals after we had to play the Bucks. Last
year the Heat had to face the Hawks, and they had to face the 76ers. And the 76ers last year were ass.
Yeah, and they're ass this year too. I would say that our easiest series might have to end up being the Sixers, and that won't be an easy series either, just because of how physical Joel Embiid is. You can't deny Joel Embiid, like, how impactful he is on a basketball court. It's just the way that he does impact the game is just not the style of basketball I like. Obviously, 2 seed is a good thing. We were on pace earlier in the season to be setting records and stuff, but how about you take me to the winter wonderland of ice, where we actually do set records as a franchise?
And you said it best yourself. Congratulations to the Boston Bruins on winning the most games in the regular season in NHL history. This was held by the Detroit Red Wings at 78 and the 2019 Tampa Bay Lightning. And neither the Tampa Bay Lightning didn't win the Stanley Cup that year. So regular season records are cool, but if you don't win the cup, it really doesn't mean anything, in my opinion. But with that being said, this team is geared up for a cup run. Taylor Hall back from injury. That is a huge acquisition, I'll call it, right now. And at this point in the season, kind of having fresh legs. He played limited minutes in the last few games just because he was, we'll call it a minutes restriction. He's just kind of getting back into the flow of game. David Pastrnak notching his 60th goal of the season. He's the face of this franchise, right? He just sets this team to the next level. What we've seen out of Pasta this season, we haven't seen out of any Bruin in NHL in history. And considering this is an original franchise, like an original 8 franchise, that's unbelievable, right? It's kind of up to par with Jason Tatum averaging 30 points a game and being the first Celtic to do this. David Pastrnak scoring 60 goals and being the first Bruin to do this since, I think he's the first one. It's just unbelievable, in my opinion. We're watching history in our very own city on both of the sports teams that we know and love. And kind of looking ahead, there's 2 regular season matchups left. We have the Capitals, and I don't remember who else they have.
The Canadiens. It
doesn't matter. Yeah, the Canadiens aren't that good. Capitals aren't good either. Most likely, the Bruins will either face Florida or the Islanders in the first round, which I would rather face the Islanders. But who knows, right? Playoff hockey is just its own animal in itself, where it's not like basketball where the 1-8, the 1 seed is you're going to win. In hockey, that's not really the case. It really just takes one hot goaltender to really mess up an entire flow of a series. And it does. Playoff hockey in general is nerve-wracking just because it's hockey. But if the Bruins play their brand of hockey, no one's stopping them. Nobody is stopping them if they can play how they've played. It's really coming down to Linus Ullmark, Jeremy Swayman. If they can hold down their own, this team is going to put up goals. They're deep, right? You have your guys. You have your veterans with David Pastrnak, who I'll consider a veteran right now. Obviously, you have Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron. Then you get to the defensive side. You have Hampus Lindholm. You have Charlie McAvoy, Matt Grzelcyk. You have these studs, Dmitry Orlov, recent trade acquisition that we've talked about prior on the show. This team is deep. They go 4 lines deep, and any single one of those lines can score, compared to the past where, especially like last year or the year before, we were 75% of our goals were scored on the first line with David Pastrnak, Brad Marchand, and Patrice Bergeron. That's not the case this year. Everybody can score. When you have Jake DeBrusk scoring goals, Taylor Hall, Hathaway, all these guys are just scoring, right? So if that momentum can carry into the playoffs, no one's beating them. Nobody is beating them. If we can get out of the East, it looks like the series, if, like I said, if everything goes to plan, it would be, I'll say Florida in the first round, then the winner of Tampa Bay and Toronto, which will be Tampa Bay. Toronto doesn't make it out of the first round, poverty-ass city. And then you would face Carolina or New York Rangers, which it's just a gauntlet. Excuse me. If you can get out of that conference, I'm confident you can beat whoever comes out of the other side.
And, looking at the other side, Stav, what are a couple of teams that we should be looking out for in terms of, who do we think that, in a perfect scenario, who do you think we'd be meeting for the Cup?
It's between two teams, in my opinion. The Colorado Avalanche, just because they've been there, they've done that. They've been the team to make crazy runs in the playoffs. Led by, obviously, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar. But the best team out of the West is the Vegas Golden Knights, coached by former Boston Bruins head coach Bruce Cassidy. So that would be a hell of a storyline just to see Cassidy coaching against the Bruins in a Stanley Cup playoff. That series, Vegas and Boston. Vegas has gone to a few cups recently as well, yet to win one, but Colorado and Vegas, and then a team that shouldn't be kind of a wild card to make the cup, but a team that everybody knows is the Edmonton Oilers, right? They're the best offense in the NHL, essentially, when you talk about star power with Leon Draisaitl, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, obviously the best player in the NHL. It's just their defense sucks. Their defense and their goaltending sucks. I don't really see them making a big push into the cup. I don't want to count them out. So 3 teams to look out for in this order. I'll say Vegas, Colorado, Edmonton. So any one of those 3 teams, I will probably those are my 3 top seeds in the Western Conference. And then obviously, if we want to talk about what's going to be out of the East, it's going to be either the Bruins, the Lightning, just because they're the Lightning, and the Rangers. I don't think Carolina's had too many late season injuries for me to consider them to be as much of a threat as they were prior. But veteran leadership in New York, obviously you have Patrick Kane there, and he's a guy who's been there, done that. So at this point in his career, he just wants to win. And we're going to wait and see the winners of Florida. We're going to see if New York can squeeze in Pittsburgh. So it's going to be an interesting last few days, but the Bruins locked up the President's Cup. We're just kind of sitting on the couch waiting to see who we can match up with.
Yeah, and I mean, 20 points clear of anybody else in the Eastern Conference. And I mean, a goal differential that's exponentially, I mean, not even close to any other team in this league. If you don't know hockey, you can just look at these stats. Like me, I'm going to say right now, I don't know hockey like that. And you can just tell how, powerful this team is. It's almost, kind of ringing bells if I want to make a comparison. It sounds a little familiar to a little Red Sox 2018 run.
It does. It really does, and it reminds me of that. It reminds me of The Last Dance. We've said this time and time again. This is probably the last season in which we will see all of Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand. We signed Pasta for 8 years for a reason, but I'm saying that core. It's probably the last time we see this core all together, and they made moves to really push them ahead. And on paper, no one should beat this team. And I hate saying that. I literally do, because I feel like I'm jinxing them. But this is literally the best team of all time in the regular season.
Correct.
And they could even extend that lead even 2 more
with
games.
A couple of games to spare, exactly. And it's, I mean, when's the last time we had a parade at this point, Stav?
2018. Patriots.
2018. And I didn't go to that one. Not a Patriots fan. I did
either.
go to the Red Sox one the same year. But 2018, what year? It's been 5 years.
Yeah. It's a drought.
Jeez.
We need a parade. If the Bruins win the cup, that parade, we would have to.
Well, it's a good thing the Bruins and the Celtics will both win.
There's a chance.
So
There's a chance. The closest we got was last
weeks in a row.
2019. I think that the hurt of 2019 is going to propel this team, because this is the best Bruins team since then. I know 2020 happened, but there's obviously nothing really counts in 2020. But this fucking Boston.
I'll forever be a Jordan Bennington hater after that.
Yeah, that's kind of the prime example of all it takes is a hot goalie to ruin a series. But we'll see. I mean, the goal scoring that can be displayed from this team, I don't think anybody can match them in a 7-game series, especially because we're going to be at home throughout the playoffs. No one's going to no one has home ice from us at any point in the playoffs. So that recap that does it for hockey talk. There's still some. Yeah, I got mine displayed, but we'll get more into it as the playoffs really come into shape. When we know it's kind of similar to the Celtics, we don't know who they're going to match up with in the first round, but when we do, we come to inside the 5 for full coverage of those first round matchups. And now let's talk about another sport in which is at the opposite end of the spectrum compared to the two sports we already talked about. We're going to talk about some baseball. We're going to talk about our Boston Red Sox. A sweep. They swept the Detroit Tigers. This was a much needed sweep. Let me say that. Unfortunate news coming out of this series is Adam Duvall is probably going to be on the 60-day IL with a broken wrist. It's the same wrist that he hurt. He was the hottest hitter in baseball. It's unfortunate. But there's nothing you can do about it. You got to move on. And this is the vision the front office had essentially with the way they constructed this team. This team isn't that deep. Duvall goes down, and it's just like a giant gray cloud over this team.
Yeah, and I mean, with Duvall going down, who do we want to see? Kike in center? Do we want to see Tapia in center? Like, what's the next step we take from here? Are we going to see Duran going up? I've heard that Bobby Dalbec's on his way up. He was on the taxi squad. But like, how are we going to reconstruct this lineup? Are we just going to stick somebody else in center? Are we going to move Kike to center after what he's been doing at shortstop? And maybe move someone like Yu Chang to shortstop for a little bit. But, that also comes back down to if Adam Duvall is going to be on the 60-day IL, we want to put someone in there that we believe can, have some sort of consistency. And I just don't see someone like a Yu Chang or a Raimel Tapia doing that stuff.
I know, I agree. At least this lineup can hit, right?
Yes.
This lineup can hit. We're getting production 1 through 9, but that kind of heart of the order taking a hit like that isn't good, obviously. But the lineup they're rolling out today against the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays. I just had it up. Hold on. Sorry. Bad podcasting. Yeah.
I have it.
Please go.
Kike leading off at shortstop. Devers in the 2-hole at third base. Justin Turner batting in the 3 spot, DHing. Masataka Yoshida today still batting cleanup in left field. Rob Refschneider in center field. Then we got Verdugo on right. Christian Arroyo at second. Rounding it off with Casas batting 8th at first base. Connor Wong, rightfully so, in the 9-hole, catching today for Nick Pivetta.
Yeah, nasty Nick Pivetta making the start today against the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays. They're starting off 9-0 is crazy. Everyone says, "Oh, we'll look at their schedule up to this point." The Red Sox have had the same exact schedule, and the Red Sox are 5-4. So,
we didn't have to
say what you want. That's impressive, regardless of how you look at who they play. Going undefeated, going 9-0 to start a season is unbelievable. That's just something we don't see every day.
Definitely.
And they had their wins convincingly. You want to go, if we go through it, 4-0 against the Tigers, 12-2, 5-1, and then you face the Nationals, 6-2, 10-6, 7-2. Then you go to the Athletics, 9-5, 11-0, 11-0. Like, I know those teams are like AAA teams, but you're dominating. You're dominating those games. And those teams have wins. They've beaten Major League Ball clubs before, but it's not the Tampa Bay Rays. So
yeah, exactly. And they're doing these things against these teams, and obviously the Red Sox is a step up from these other teams that they've beaten in the Nationals and the Oakland Athletics, but just having that momentum of being a 9-win team, I'm scared that the Sox might get swept in this series.
So if you want to let's do a little series preview. Tonight, obviously Monday, April 10th, Sox have Pivetta on the mound. Nick Pivetta is a streaky pitcher, we can say that, against Jalen Beeks. He's an opener. He's going to go 3 innings probably.
He is an opener, yeah.
So he'll go 2-3 innings, probably 2 innings. And then they kind of go from there. This is the game you have to win, essentially. Because tomorrow you have Garrett Whitlock making his return to the Major League Baseball scene.
Debut.
Cy Young finalist Shane McClanahan is unbelievable. And our best players are our best players are lefty, including like Rafael Devers, Masataka Yoshida, and Shane McClanahan's a lefty. So that matchup isn't favorable. And then Wednesday, you have Chris Sale going up against Zach Eflin. Sale has been rocky to start. He picked up his performance against the Tigers after he lit up an early home run. But Zach Eflin's a guy who got off to a hot start. And then the last game of the series, you have Corey Kluber back on the mound against Jeffrey Springs. And
he started off the season very well.
Yeah. So he went 6 innings in his first start, had 12 strikeouts, 0 earned runs. And then against the Athletics, he went 7 innings, only allowed 3 hits, and had 7 strikeouts, 0 earned runs.
I picked him up in fantasy for that game.
Yeah, that's a very good pickup.
He put up a nice little shout out to me, by the way. Stav, I actually didn't see you. We're going into week 2 now. Did you win week 1?
Oh, of course I won week 1.
Shout out undefeated club right here.
Yeah, we are undefeated. We are fantasy baseball. Unfortunately, Will lost his first round matchup.
In a tough matchup.
He had a really tough matchup. If it's any consolation, he put up the most points out of everybody who lost.
Fair.
He put up more points than he put up more points than 3 of the winners.
Did he put up more points than me?
No. He beat me by 8 points. If we're gonna go like that, but his matchup, my cousin John, put up 545 points, which is just unreal.
Which is absolutely insane. But obviously having fun with some fantasy baseball. But in terms of this series, just looking out on this series, because we have a tough road ahead, and this is where it starts. We need to steal one, Stav, and you're right. This game on Monday, April 10th, is probably our best bet. The guy that, this is going to make too much sense, but the guy that I think that this game completely relies on is Nick Pivetta. I think that we'll do our thing against Jalen Beeks. It's just about if Pivetta can, kind of tighten up that curve, which I guess they say he's been working on, and turn it more into, a swing and a miss pitch more than a, touching the top of the trop type pitch for Randy Arozarena. I'm very, 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 very nervous for this series, because after this we then play the Angels, and then after that we play the Twins, who have started off this season quite well, and they've been putting up some runs.
Yeah, it's a tough road ahead for the Red Sox. I do think that, we'll get to that when we get there. I think that we'll be fine against the Angels, kind of a series overlook, but anything can happen. We should be getting some reinforcements back with James Paxton, who's making a rehab start soon, and same thing with Brian Bayo. So those are 2 guys who definitely will need at this point. But shout out the bullpen. The bullpen has held things down. Guys like Chris Martin, guys like Richard Bleer, Kenley Jansen has my guy, Kenley Jansen, shutting the door, hasn't blown a save yet. Shout out him. Thank you, Kenley.
What's he have? 2 saves now? Yep, 2 saves.
Yep.
Get him go.
Shout out him. Shout out Kenley Jansen. Hopefully we see a few more of those saves in this upcoming series. 1.
Maybe.
Let's see 1. I'd be happy with.
Okay, but wait, stop. So let's look at this game tonight real quick. If we're gonna win this game, what's the are we gonna out defense them? Are we gonna try to out hit them?
We have to try and out hit them. There's no. You can't out defense the Tampa Bay Rays. That's literally all they do. And I was on record. I think I said that the Rays were going to be the absolute loser of the rule changes due to the pitch clock, the shift changes, and they've just proved me wrong up to this point. I know there's a lot of baseball left. I think that I saw a tweet where it's like this point of the MLB season is the 5-minute mark of the 4th quarter of week 1 of the NFL season. So is it like time to panic, time to celebrate? Not really. There's still way too much baseball to be played. But this Tampa Bay Rays team hasn't shown any signs of really regressing. They're really deep. They're hitting the ball well.
Their pitching is, maintained. They are a very, very, very good ball club, and they have continued to produce youth talent. They are growing that system right there. And I would say the worst part of that franchise is their stadium.
Yeah, 100%. Really bad location.
Why would you put a dome in Florida?
Rain. Well, Miami has a dome too. The Marlins, they're
everywhere.
indoor. But their stadium's cool.
Yeah, but like I'm not worried about hitting Catwalk D in Miami like I am at the Trop.
It's literally like if you had to compare the Trop to like anything, it'd be like a mini golf course that has a lot of obstacles. It's like,
The Trop,
this hole, you get a hole in one. Or if you hit this catwalk, it's a home run. But if you hit this one, it's a foul ball.
when was the Trop built, bro? I mean, this is like one of the worst stadiums in all of Major League Sports at this point. When it was first introduced and they had the big ass Tropicana logo in left center or right center, it was cool looking. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I used to play it on MLB Power Pros 09 all the time. But now that like there's just so many different, when you have to worry about if it's a home run or not, you should just get rid of the dome, in my opinion.
March 3rd, 1990 was when it was open to the park.
They're due for a new stadium.
And want to know guess the budget? Like it's budget guessing isn't good.
$260 million.
No, it's 138.
Wow.
So like they didn't spend.
I knew it would be a lot lower.
They didn't spend shit on this, and it's just showing. So
yeah, and I mean, and that's not even like a diss to other older ballparks, because Fenway Park was built in fucking like when Pangea was still a thing, and that is a beautiful ball club. So, or ballpark, but no, in all seriousness, it's going to be a very, very tough road here for the Boston Red Sox, and I feel like we kind of eased our way into the year. We got a nice big series sweep against the Detroit Tigers. Hopefully that gives us a little bit of momentum here, Stav. Like you said, when James Paxton and Brian Bayo come back, this is going to be a completely different ball club. We're going to see, maybe hopefully either Houck or Whitlock, maybe even both of them in the bullpen. That's going to beef that thing up a lot. And we're going to be, in a lot different of a position. Like you said, Stav, you said it was the beginning of the fourth quarter of week 1 of the NFL season.
5
if we
minutes.
were to compare.
It's 5 minutes left of the fourth quarter of week 1. Yeah.
Okay. So like you said, very early in the season, you look down. We don't play the Yankees until the beginning of June. And that's obviously like a marquee series that we always look out for. But when we get through then, this is going to be a completely different ball team. Hopefully Duvall comes back around that time. We're going to be waiting on Trevor Story, getting into the later months of summer as well. And by then it's going to be a ball team where right now what I'm looking for personally is our pitching from 1 through 3 on that bullpen. And I'm looking at how to be a reliever. I'm looking at guys like you said, like Richard Bleer, like Kenley Jansen, to maintain what they're doing for when we become full strength. We need to, just keep coasting our way through this long season and get back to full health, keep our guys healthy. That is really the name of the season for us this year.
Well, all right. I'm just looking through the schedule. This will be our last point of this episode. But in August, we have the hardest possible schedule. Are you ready for this gauntlet we have to go through from August 18th to August 30th? We go New York in a 3-game series. Then we go down to Houston for a 4-game series. Then we have the Dodgers at home in a 3-game series. And then we have the Astros in a 3-game series at home.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here. Oh, yeah, nice. That is in one of the most difficult months of the season. I love how that's all capped off by like Kansas City too. It's like Kansas City starts that run and then ends it. So it's like at least we have Kansas City. But then after that Kansas City run, Stav, it's Tampa, then Baltimore, then New York, then Toronto. It doesn't get much easier after that, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Jesus Christ. We gotta have our wins if we want to be competing. All right. Whatever. I don't want to. It's time for the episode to end when we're talking about August baseball in May and April.
Yeah.
May.
Yeah. But I mean, a lot of content covered on this episode. We hope you guys enjoyed as always. New background, by the way, for the YouTube viewers, if anybody was checking it out. We hope you guys like that. Stav has a new hat on. We will catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.